Hey, it's the podcast guy.
Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast.
And there it is! Sutton United at the GM Vauxhall Conference have put out First Division Coventry City, winners of the FA Cup themselves less than 2 years ago. And what a moment to enjoy for the fans of this Surrey side. They've had their moments before, but never one like this. But the whistle goes down. Delight for Sutton United. Sutton United from the National League are through to the last 16 of the FA Cup. No longer English football's perennial non-league club. A 123-year crescendo reaches a new peak for Sutton United, who are promoted to the Football League for the first time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast in association with Lucky Star Gin. I'm your host Mike, and with me today I'm pleased to introduce Josh Coley. In this episode we're going to be covering Josh's background, his hopes for the future, and we're going to be very briefly talking about last season. We love to hear from you. Please join in the conversation, stay connected, share your thoughts at Sutton Podcast on all socials, talk to other fans and let us know what you think. We're going to dive right in. Josh, thank you very much for, I've put volunteering in inverted commas, for joining on the show. Hope you're well. And I do hope this isn't yet another conversation I end up with you or the family that I end up having to explain or apologise for with a message afterwards. How are you and how's pre-season gone so far? Oh, you've put yourself on mute. Sorry, buddy. There you go.
Back.
Yep.
No, yeah, all good. All good this way. Pre-season's been enjoyable, to be fair, to get used to a full new squad, and I kind of enjoy that part when you have a load of new players coming in, or you go to a new team with a load of new players that you don't know, and it's all about getting to know each other and how each other play. And you can tell so far, I think, in the games that we're starting to gel. Maybe not so much on Saturday's game, but the games before that. Patterns are getting picked up, and I think it's promising with the group that we've got, and something to be excited about.
Yeah, I mean, you need these games to know each other's weaknesses, not just their strengths, because it's going to go bad at some point. So
definitely.
But just sort of stepping back, I want to sort of find out a bit about you and your background. Tell us about your early life and how you kind of got into football.
Early career, probably best to go back to 18, 19, when I went to Hitchin Town. So I think they were in the Evo Stick Prem, I think it might have been back then. And my dad used to play for them. So I think he played with the gaffer, Berkey, and Parks that were there at the time. So I sort of went there on like a pre-season type thing just to get involved in men's football coming out of college. And obviously was relatively young for men's football back then. That would have been nearly 10 years ago now. But it was one of those where I went there and then ended up going on loan to like another team a bit lower. So I was at a team called Baldock Town, and I just had a really good season with them. We got promoted. We won a couple of trophies, and I ended up getting a scout came up to me, and we was then talking from March onwards about a trial for Norwich. So I ended up going there in that summer, being 19, 20, and was lucky enough to get offered a contract, really. Kind of fairy tale type story, if that makes sense, coming from solo to be offered a contract. So that was really proud moment for myself. And I think I stayed there for a year. They offered me a new deal halfway through, and my second year they sent me on loan to Dunfermline in the Scottish Champ at the time, and that was the year before COVID hit. So I was only there until January. Went back to Norwich in Jan. Then obviously COVID started hitting. My contract ran out. I wasn't offered a new deal during the COVID period, which is then when I took myself to Maidenhead for that very weird COVID no fans year. I think I would have been 21, 22 then. Then I had a really good year there again. Not so much statistically, just in terms of performances and stuff like that. And then I got picked up by Exeter at the end of that year. Spent another 2 years there, and then finally landed myself here at Sutton for last year. Yeah, 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 definitely. Yeah, it's very easy to answer that one. Definitely my dad, but I would also say my mum in certain aspects from when I was. I think I lived with my mum until I was 16, until I finished school, and she was the one that was taking to me to all the Sunday league games. Obviously, my dad was still living down south in Stevenage in Hitchin. Um, so yeah, I'd have to say my mum as well for a partial part of that. She was a massive factor for me to even continue playing when I moved up to York. So yeah, definitely mum, both, both. I have to say both, otherwise I'll get told off.
You about so that we've got that one because
Yeah,
it's always dads that come for the glory bit, but the mums has to
yeah,
do all the
yeah,
dirty work.
yeah. Yeah.
um, so is there any, apart from signing for Norwich, which we'll come on to, but is there any
Mhm.
memorable moments from your youth career that sort of stand out for you that you kind of often think back to?
Um, I think I when I was in school, so obviously I was born in Stevenage, but I moved up and lived with my mum in York until I was 16. So I think I was there from the age of 2 to 16. But I always wanted to be a footballer from when I was very, very young. Um, Still on the path and still on the journey now. But it was one very memorable moment for me was I went to a schoolboys trial type thing for York schoolboys, and I didn't get in, and I was gutted. And a couple of my friends from school got in, and I was absolutely devastated. And I think I would have been 14, turning 15 at this time. So yeah, yeah, I think I was year 10, and I had a phone call, or my mum had a phone call 2 days later after I didn't get in. That was for the actual York City, who were in League Two, I think, at the time.
Right, yeah.
And this was when you had, I think Ben Godfrey was playing right before he moved to Norwich as well. I ended up getting a trial there, and I got in to the actual York City rather than the schoolboys. And I remember going to a few sessions, and it kind of being a turning point that I remembered maybe 3 years later when I was 18. But I just didn't like it. I just couldn't get to grips with the academy side of it, and it just wasn't for me. Um, I wanted to have fun whilst I was playing, and because it was a professional environment at that age, I'd never been around sort of that professional type system. So I'd gone from having so much fun to having to really concentrate on like a 5 yard pass or the detail on a turn, and I just wanted to have fun with my mates. So I ended up leaving, which now looking back at it, knowing how hard it is to get into an academy or to get into a professional setup, probably something I took for granted quite massively. Um, but it was just one of those where, because I was so young, I remember it so vividly, and I told my mom, like, I'm not going to training. Like, I'm gonna call the coach and tell him I don't want to go anymore. And I just remember that as more of a turning point when I got to Norwich, because I was like, I can't take the same chance for granted, really. So I think that was something that stuck with me massively in terms of memories. Not so much positive, but it's still a statement that stuck with me. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you get a chance to go and talk to the academy kids and tell them these
Do you
couple
know
of things?
what? I haven't, and I spoke to my agent about it, about doing it, and I think it's all different types of experiences, especially if you've come from not being in it to being thrown in it, or if you've come all the way through an academy. It's always nice for. Sorry, that was my fault. It's always nice to hear both sides, of the long childhood path all the way through from like the ages of, when they go from 6 up
Yeah.
all the way through, and then come out of it at 21 to somebody who goes in it at 20, 21 and comes out of it at 23. So yeah, that's something that I've always wanted to do and something I will be looking into doing. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's going to be kids out there at the academies feeling that they're the only one thinking this isn't for me, this isn't
Yeah.
for me, and they don't see that other people have been there.
Yeah.
So you've kind of mentioned you've moved around a little bit. You had your disappointments, but then ended up going to a bigger thing anyway.
Yeah.
But what was it like? I know you said very, very proud, but what was the differences like between signing for Norwich as a professional outfit and playing for fun? What specifically were there? Was it classroom stuff as well, or
Um, I would say that the main differences would have been the environment. You're with When I moved to Norwich, I was instantly thrown into a changing room full of boys that I think maybe only one or two of them had not been involved in an academy for a while. So I know that Adam Ida, when I was there, who's obviously now with the first team on a consistent basis, or obviously he was on loan at the Celtic. Um, he just came from Ireland, I think, maybe a year before I'd arrived. So he hadn't been there for that long. I think it was the same with another boy, Simon Power, who's gone back to Ireland now. But you're instantly in an environment where everybody wants to be a pro. It don't matter if they hurt your feelings, if your mates, not bothered. They just want to go to the top, and it's all like a mindset thing. So I would definitely say environment and mindset. That was massive for me that I had to adjust to very quickly, and I sort of found myself for the first 6 to 8 weeks. I would have said I was running just off pure adrenaline of being there, because I was only supposed to be there for a week's trial, and then they told me. So I was there on the Monday for a week. They told me on the Wednesday, we're gonna give you another week. So the week turned to 2, and then on the Friday they asked me if I had a passport, which I didn't. I had to go and do a Peterborough same day passport because they wanted to take me on tour 2 weeks later. So it was just pure adrenaline I was running off. And then after I'd signed, I think there was a bit 2-3 weeks where we played Man United, we played Southampton, and we played Sunderland at the Stadium of Light. And I was like, yeah, this is crazy. This is absolutely ridiculous. And then after that, I just started falling, like, in terms of it just started going. Body started catching up with me from doing these sessions every day, 2 double sessions, triple sessions every day. And then I went for a period of, like, I felt so out of my depth for a good 4 weeks whilst I was trying to get back up to speed, which was, I think I remember the gaffer at the 23s was Matt Gill, who's now Russell Martin's assistant at Southampton. I remember he pulled me with the sports scientist and said, like, we've basically been waiting for you to drop. Like, it was only a matter of time before it was all just going to go the opposite way because it was such a high rush. But yeah, definitely the mindset and the environment are the two massive things I would say is the difference between the setups and for fun, I guess.
yeah, because like you said it to Jimmy the other day, he there's always a dream that everyone wants to work in football. Some people aren't quite good enough. But then the more I get close to people who are working in football, the more my anxiety would have never coped with this at all. It's absolutely amazing that even when you finish playing and you think you're settled, it's suddenly up, nope, all gone. So obviously you mentioned you're Norwich, Dunfermline, Exeter, you're at Harrogate for a while, Maidenhead for a while. How did they kind of contribute to your experience and development? And is there any kind of memorable, if I could say it, moments from any of the clubs?
Well, obviously the most memorable was getting promoted with Exeter from League 2 to League 1. That was my first season when I was there. Obviously, not the biggest part I played in terms of statistically. I think I only played 23 league games, 6 or 7 starts, but more than enough for me to be happy with my first sort of visit to the league and coming out with being part of an unbelievable team that managed to get promotion and probably should have ended up winning the league if it wasn't for that last day.
Yeah, we'll talk
I
about that
think,
last day in a minute.
yeah. I'm pretty sure there was something that went on with Sutton that
Yeah,
last day
yeah,
as
there
well.
was actually.
But no, that was probably the most memorable. But in terms of experiences, I've been pretty much all over the globe in terms of the United Kingdom. Obviously, we've been up in Scotland and stuff, and it's one of those where each club's obviously given me certain personality traits that I've probably taken with me to the next club. Obviously, when I was in Scotland, it was massive for me because we're talking 9 hours away from home on your own, and I was lucky enough that I was with 2 other boys that were from York. Even though I wasn't living in York, they were from York, who we sort of bundled together with in this 3-bedroom apartment, which was class. And at times they probably saved me from my own mind. In terms of exactly what you said, like my anxiety was through the roof. And you sort of have some stages where you potentially are missing home and you don't want to go nowhere. And at that age, 21, 22, I think there was times where I thought this football thing isn't for me, being away from home. Um, so yeah, obviously take negative experiences from some, positive from other, and try and bundle them together to try and be the best person I can at the next club. And lucky enough, when Exeter picked me up, I was able to show some of that, and I showed some of it in Harrogate. Didn't play as much there, but obviously, regarding last season, it was a disappointment, I think, for everybody, and no one was happy with it. And you try and take the negatives from that and some of the positives from that with the new guy coming in, and the new system, the new setup that he's put in place. And you take that into this season and hope we can use all the experience we've got from everywhere and get back out of this league.
Yeah. So that last day, all we needed was for Forest Green or Exeter to win the game.
Yeah,
Everything was happy. But no, you all went, we're not bothering with that.
no,
No one wants Sutton in the playoffs. Get out of it.
it
Um,
was mental that day. Couldn't believe it.
so you've joined Sutton. What were you sold to join Sutton? What were you sort of sold on? What did we tell you was going to happen, and how did the reality live up?
Well, you know what I think the first thing that I need to state, I think, is that I've always hated playing against Matt Gray's teams. Always. Never enjoyed it. Didn't enjoy it at Maidenhead. I think I got slumped 3-0 twice that season that you lot got promoted, um, with the old gaffer and with Jace from the National League. I think it was 3-0 on the first day of the season and 3-0 away from home when Louis John scored from the halfway line, in that COVID season. So I've always hated, and I always thought about the wingers that were there when Tance was obviously playing and David was playing, and I just thought I'd love to be that winger. That would be really enjoyable for me because every time it was relentless, relentless, relentless. Um, so the main thing was I wanted to come here and play games, which technically I did, but not to the standards that I would have liked. But we can all be honest. Last year we all wanted promotion, whether it was from a playoffs or whatever point of view. The goal was to get playoffs because that's where the club was heading. The first year, the second year, I think started that way and kind of dropped after January. Um, but that was definitely something that the gaffer said, "This is what we're going for," and I was all for it. Obviously, things don't work out. I think it was Crawley who was touted to go down last year.
Every single person was Crawley.
Yeah, so obviously it's a massive shock, and it, you say if you catch it at a different time, it probably doesn't happen, but things happen, and the only thing we can do now is get ourselves out of the league with the way that the gaffer's sorted us out now.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely signed the players last year. It was
Yeah.
kind of the way it was announced. It was like a little stacking. Every single player,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, blimey, oh, blimey. So yeah, I did say a couple of times on paper, this is the best team we've had, and
Yeah.
they wouldn't let me walk in and cover the pitch in paper because apparently that's not allowed.
Yeah.
But we got off to a fantastic start.
Yeah.
5-1, and that must have been fantastic. I mean, I think you have 2 assists, I think, or 1 assist
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
game.
2 assists. Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, we are going to be really at this.
Yeah.
When did you start personally feeling something wasn't quite right?
But we played Notts County, and we won, and then we played Cambridge at home, and we won on penalties. So we were thinking, we've beat the team that's touted to go straight to League One. We've now beat a League One team, so the buzz was pretty high for us. And then I'm pretty sure the game after that was the Barrow game, away
Yeah.
from home.
Yeah.
And I think when we played Barrow away, I think there was still a slight hint that we could make it work, even though we lost Smudger very early. Obviously, Leon Goal went on to score. And I think it was 2 late goals. I want to say like the 85th and 89th or something like that to lose the game 2-1. So even coming off of that pitch, we were thinking we've been done here because we've got 10 men, but we've still managed to make it a game that they have to win rather than a game that we lost, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think after that, when we played Newport away and lost 3-1, I think then you started to see signs of when we were conceding goals, we weren't really conceding good goals. And then we started conceding them on a regular basis. We played Gillingham at home on a Tuesday night, lost 1-0.
Lost that though.
Yeah, when you
Scotty's
look
goal
at the
wasn't
goal that,
offside. It was
yeah,
it was from a throw on. It couldn't have been offside. But
yeah. But again, you look at the goal that we conceded, you think minimum you come out with a draw, you know?
yeah,
So yeah, it's one of those again. So
yeah.
I
It
think
was
probably from that Newport game looking onwards, you would say so.
so. I mean, what was happening wasn't just one goal. It was often 2 goals, 3 goals in
Yeah,
quick
yeah,
succession.
yeah. Quickly.
Did you have any thoughts of what the problem was? Obviously, I'm not asking to stick it to anyone, but did you have any thoughts of what the collective issue was, or was everyone just in their head going, "What the hell's going on?"
I don't. Again, every time we used to have meetings, it was just always about the goals we were conceding and how regularly we were conceding them. So it was sort of like, if we can stop goals, we'll be okay. But we never really got down to that. I think it started to slowly go down when the gap came in, but we were scoring more goals. So we ended up drawing a lot of games with the new gaffer when he came in, even though we were still conceding. So it was kind of a running theme all the way through, if that makes sense. So yeah.
There was a period where you were getting some frustration?
Yeah.
How much are you aware of this when you're playing? And how does it affect yourself?
Well, I mean, it's hard. It's an hard one because I've always been a player that when I'm playing, I'm usually firing, and I sort of wasn't, if that makes sense. But I mean, on a personal thing, I started off the best that I could possibly start, with 2 assists and a 5-1 win. But it was one of those where after the first one, the rest wasn't coming. I think it happened with my goal as well. When I scored against Bradford. And obviously we spoke, and that was a burden that was weighing on me for a while because I hadn't scored a league goal. I'd scored in every other cup. I'd scored in the FA Cup, the Carabao, whatever it was. And it was so hard for me to keep mentally ticking over knowing I hadn't scored. And then when I got that first one, I was sort of waiting for the next one to just drop. And I had that the chance against Grimsby where I smacked the outside of the post to win the game 2-1. And I was thinking, no, here we go again. Like this is me. this is me. It's not going well. But I'm a huge confidence player. Everybody who's around me knows that. Probably fans can see that when, maybe I have a shot or a cross that doesn't go right, and I'm my own worst critic. Even the gaffer at the back end of last year when I started to pick up form again, was sort of like you have to believe in yourself more because you've got all the ability. You're just letting your mind control how you play. And I've always been like that. I've always ended up caging myself to the point where I either don't perform or I overperform. But yeah, it's quite hard for me to really answer that question with a straight answer.
Yeah, because I always find it. Everyone does it, but when a player misses something relatively easy or they probably do, everyone's like, "Oh, unlucky, Josh, unlucky." It's like, help, he knows.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, or if someone's shouting,
Not
"That was
unlucky,
shit,"
it's
like,
rubbish.
if that was
Yeah.
shit, no, he knows. Stop. There's no point telling him. I remember even mentioning at one stage that it was annoying. And obviously, we know it's a complex thing. It was annoying to me that you were getting past players, and it's like, right, run into the box, or get that crossing, and then that whole conflict thing was turning back, looking for the extra pass. I will take some credit because there was one game that after I said it, you kind of then ran straight into the box and we won a penalty. So I'm like, yeah, I'm claiming that. But was it just a case of, yeah, I'd rather keep possession than take that chance?
I think there's definitely an aspect of that, and I'll only say that because when you're down there as well, you start to think differently. So, because obviously through no fault of the fans as well, because we would obviously the fans are great, and I love the fans because they stuck with us all the way through the season, no matter the results. But during games, it's different because people want results, which is again fine. That's just how football is. But when you're down there, you're always second, triple guessing every single decision you make. And if you get to the byline, especially for someone like me, and you cross and it goes all the way through, or it doesn't hit a man, or you don't find someone, instantly you're thinking everybody's like, "Nah, that was a bad cross." Even though in football terms it might have been a good cross or in the right area, everyone's thinking, "Pick someone out," or you
Yeah.
have to, yeah. And now
Yeah.
you're thinking, "All right, next time I'm gonna pass back. I'll let Jacko do the cross. I'll let Clay do the cross." So that someone else is doing it because already your mind's going, all right, if I don't hit somebody, I'm going to get it. And then I'm going to think that I can't cross. And then I'm going to think that I shouldn't cross. And you're just dropping down, down, down. And it's just an endless battle with your own mind. And again, that is pure football, which is why the people at the top, they probably don't even think about anything twice. They probably just do it. Whether it doesn't work, they'll just do it again and then they'll just do it again. And it's football's all mindset. So my dad always used to say to me that 80% of the game is played in your head, and that's always stuck with me because I'm always in my own head, which which I probably shouldn't say, but I'm an honest person, and I play best when I'm not thinking, which is the Josh that Sutton had the last 8 games of the season from that Forest Green run to the end of the season. Well, maybe from the when we played Crew away when we lost 1-0 quite late on. I think that was the first game that the gaffer sort of threw me in for the run of games. I don't think I came out of the team from then. So from then, that was just a relentless. I'm not thinking about anything, Josh Coley. But yeah, you definitely overthink, and again, it's everyone's human, and I think a lot of people think that maybe footballers aren't, um, and that because that's what we do as an occupation, that means that we should do it consistently every single time. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, and
Um,
there's and I'm guessing
yeah.
you firing in that cross to Harry should have gotten the end on. You were quite a big bloke. You couldn't turn around and go, no, that's your fault, mate. I'm sorry.
Well, no, yeah. I mean, there was times like that, as you said, there was times where I would cross, and it would be one of those where I used to hate crossing with one person in the box and three defenders or four defenders. Well, I just didn't see the point of it. It's just we're already outnumbered. It just doesn't make sense. But look, fans like balls going in the box. They like runners into the box. They like people that pick it up and dribble. It's what I've always been good at. It's what's got me all my moves that I've had so far. It's what I did consistently for Maidenhead that year, which is why I even got noticed in the first place. Um, so I just need to bring back more of that. And again, we saw a lot of it the last 8 games where I was just forward thinking, and I predict a lot more of that this year. Um, so yeah, fingers crossed.
So you mentioned the wingers we had on the map, but it goes back way, way, way further with Rory, Tom. There's some great. Um,
Yeah.
so my wording here is coming up to Christmas, things weren't great. And the
Hmm.
away match at Stockport was a particular low point. Um,
Yeah.
what's it like in that match? That 90 minutes must have just been like never ending. Um,
Yeah.
we were we were told that everything's great, everyone's together, we're working really, really hard. Um, was that feeling there, like you said at the meetings, everyone going, "Oh, we just need to do this"?
Um, you know what I will say is last year's group was a good group. Um, but unfortunately, when things go wrong, there's always crashes in camp. There has to be, otherwise it wouldn't be right. It was sat bottom of the table for a majority of the season. It's one of those where yes, the camp was good, but there was also bad moments because of the situation we was in. I think it was a first for a lot of us as well in terms of getting relegated. I don't think there was. I think there was maybe a handful that had been relegated prior to that. So it was all new. It was all new situation for us in terms of going into every game from September, October, knowing that you had to win or you were staying at the bottom of the table. It was just one of those where maybe in terms of that we didn't have the right experience, or the experience we had we didn't utilize enough. But the camp was a good camp, and it was a good camp right until the last day of the season. When the gaffer took over, it got better, of course, because the results started to change. But even when the gaffer took over, we were drawing games that we should have been winning. Um, so yeah, I'll stick firmly with the fact that it was good camp because there's people that I still speak to that have left that I talk to now. Like me and Butts talk every day basically. I know obviously we was in a car school, but even me and him had a bit of a tear up in training because of the situation we was in, and we both wanted to win, and it was just one of those where emotions are heightened, and they're heightened every single day, and there's no getting away from it. So yeah,
I've never understood that when media make a big fuss about players having a row in training. It's like,
yeah,
well, yeah, of course they can have a row in training because
yeah,
they'll get it out there, and it's like siblings. You have a row with
yeah,
each other all the time, every day. But as soon as
yeah,
someone else steps in, then you're going to defend each other.
yeah, yeah.
But the horror at Stockport, what's it like playing in something like that?
It was when they say about training games and about it, they was just doing waves of attack. That was it. It was a waves of attack drill for them because it was consistent, relentless, and it was horrible. And I played in a game as well where we got beat by Ipswich when I was at Exeter 6-0, and that was the day they got promoted. That was nowhere. Like after that, you come off thinking, okay, cool, they're just a better team. That's fine. But Stockport, it was like we're just kids. We're just kids out here. Like we were pressing and chasing down, and there was just no point. They had plan B, C, D, all the way through to Z, and their plan A was way more than we could have ever dealt with in the first place. And obviously, give props to Stockport. Very good team, got promoted, very good all the way through the season. But I'll still say they weren't 8-0 good, if I'm being honest. And it was just one of those games where, because of the situation we was in, as soon as it got to 2-3, I think everybody's minds were just gone. That was it. It could have been anything, and it probably should have been more than 8 if we're going to be honest as well. So yeah, it's a horrible feeling. I don't want that again, ever. I don't wish that for any footballer, because mentally you're questioning everything you do as soon as you come off. You probably question. I was questioning myself during the game.
Yeah.
It's not nice. It's not nice, and it
So
wasn't nice.
did the sacking come as a major shock, or in hindsight, did you expect it earlier, or did you think it was going to carry on? Did you think he had enough in the bank?
I think if some people were expecting it earlier, I was one of them. I'll be open and honest, because the gaffer knows that I had utmost respect for him from the conversations we've had. Based on football, I expected it. I think there was other people that was losing their jobs and that already in October, and they were in a better position. Was it the Gillingham one?
Yeah,
I think maybe. And we were sort of thinking that it would be the same, and then when it didn't happen, we were like, okay, cool, we're here. Like, Gaffer's got us till the end. We need to get out of this. Simple as that. And then I think when he came in, the Tuesday, I think it was, after the Stockport game, he'd obviously found out, and that was the first we'd heard of it. And everyone was pretty shell shocked. It was sort of like we couldn't really dwell on it too much.
no.
We sort of were in a situation where we had to. It sounds horrible, and I apologise if there's people that love Matt Gray that are going to take that the wrong way. But we couldn't dwell on it in the situation we were in. We couldn't have 4 weeks thinking about what we're going to do now type thing. I think Jace took over, and we had to go straight back to war. That was it. Like, as plain as simple as it is. And again, that's just football. And it's a horrible thing, maybe to say, horrible thing to feel. But I think we had games coming up thick and fast. It was a Christmas period. We had 3 or 4 games coming, I think, in 7 days, or 10 days, or whatever it was. But I think the change, when it happened, was probably needed. I think we saw that with the Gillingham game away. We should have won. Smudger got sent off again, but Geezer scored a worldie, put it top corner, lost 1-0. Newport game, we drew 1-1. And then we won the Wimbledon game, obviously, before that. Massive derby. You're thinking that's the turn. Like, that's perfect for us. 1 win, and 2 draws, and you was thinking, cool, like, maybe we can start this run from here. And then obviously the gaff came in. So yeah, it was a massive change, and I think a lot of people weren't expecting it based on the fact that it hadn't happened earlier. I think.
Yeah. I had conversation with two of the directors, and one of them said, I can't remember which one it was just like, the football people have just moved on. They've just got on with it, and it's like, yeah, I know, because that's their job. That's not. They're not like us. They don't have that same connection. It was bizarre for us, because obviously you can see what's happening with other clubs, and people getting sacked left, right, and centre. And I know some people feel it should have happened earlier, but we couldn't work out a Sutton manager had been sacked in. We went back to 70 years, so it was like, okay, we don't sack managers. No one knows what to do. But when Steve came in, a lot of it was, he worked on mindset, all the rest of it. We didn't get the new manager bounce. We got some draws, as you mentioned, but we didn't get that bounce. What kind of changes did you notice? Was there anything that happened immediately, or was it just kind of like working on the head?
No, training intensity went straight up because everybody wanted to impress, everybody wanted to play. Um, that was the first thing. Schedule changed. We had Salas obviously then came in. I think maybe the second week um, to come and do sessions with us, which was purely mindset sessions. Where do you see yourself? How do you see yourself? Are you nice to yourself? Are you not nice to yourself? It was probably stuff we all needed because at that point you're at the bottom of the table. Everybody probably thinks the worst of themselves.
Yeah.
We're this, we're that, we're no good. Da, 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 da. And we came in and the gaffer, Steve, and Salas all just came in and just looked after us because we needed it. We were all down in the dumps. And when I say that, I mean that literally every day was training, another game. Oh, we've got to play one of the top six now. Like it was just one of those. Um, and it was hard. It was really hard. And we're sort of lucky in terms of the type of manager we've got because Gaffer is one of the best around in terms of how he is with you. He's plain and simple. You either doing something right, you're not doing it at all, or you're doing it bad, and you'll know where you need to improve. And it's great. It's great for people like me because I need that sort of interaction to know what I've done wrong. Otherwise, I'll just carry on thinking that I'm okay. Um, but but the change in the schedule and the change in the intensity and training and how we was going to play were two massive things because he came in and changed shape more or less immediately to the 4-3-3 from a 4-4-2 what we was playing with Matt Gray. So yeah, there was a lot of things, but I think it was a weekly. He was changing things weekly, and improving things. I think is the main thing. And to be honest, I think we was unlucky not to get ourselves out of the situation we was in, because for that from January onwards, we were an harder team to beat. Obviously, we did lose games, but you look at the games we won, you look at the games we drew, and I think was it the Doncaster game at
Yeah.
home? Um, and you look at that and think that should have been our turning point, but that was their turning point.
I know.
And then from then on, they went on an unbeaten streak. Um,
I,
so
I
yeah,
guess I guess we try hard not to criticise individual players. Dino made that very hard.
listen, as I said, everybody makes mistakes, and
Yeah.
that was a season of pure mistakes and no
Yeah.
improvement. That was all last year was, which is why we ended up getting the result we got. Obviously, things changed when the gaffer came in, but people were still making mistakes, including myself. And it was all the way through. And it was one of those things where because we'd been making the mistakes, and it seemed like it was acceptable to make those mistakes, it then leaked all the way through, and that's when we get relegated. But I've had 6 to 8 weeks of the off season to sort of make my peace with it and not bring it into this season. But I think even a few of the boys that we've got now would say that there's a few times where I've shouted in training and I've probably still got a bit of anger and annoyance from last year, which is nothing to do with the new boys. Now I've been in training. I've shouted at Will Davis for something that wasn't really that big of a deal, and I had to apologise to him the same night because I was thinking that's not on. Like
Yeah.
but I just I want to win. Doesn't matter when it is, where it is. Don't like losing. Last year was just a season of losing, and I hated it. I hated it, and it's a pride thing. It's a pride thing for me as
Yeah,
well. So it
absolutely. Yeah.
kills me. Kills
Um,
me.
I mean, on that, the last sort of question on last season, um, we went into that last game with a hope. Obviously, it wasn't like all we got to do is win or anything, but we had a little bit of hope. And for you personally, did you when you were subbed so early, we were all kind of up in the heavens there, going, "What? Hey?" Um,
Yeah.
did you on the pitch? Had you seen that we've been overrun, or did you think something needs to change? And were you thinking it might be me that needs to change?
I wasn't. You know what? I'll be honest. I wasn't so much thinking it might be me based on how I'd played the 7 games prior. Because I was quite comfortable in the run of form. I scored few assists. We were winning. I was feeling good. So it wasn't so much of a case of I think it's going to be me. I definitely felt like we were getting overrun in that game. The way they were moving the ball side to side, pushing tempo forward, it was one of those where you could kind of tell that something was going to change if we wanted to try and come out of this with a win. And obviously, I was gutted. I was absolutely gutted to be brought off. But again, as I just said, the gaffer, it's one of those. It's black or white. And he said to me straight away as I was coming off, he was like, "I apologize, but I needed to change the shape. Um, you haven't played. I think I had a shot, maybe should have scored, and I set up Lakes for the chance as well. Literally 3 seconds before I got taken off. So he said like it wasn't a performance thing, and yeah, as I said, I was gutted, but I'm for the team. So if there's something that's gonna bet the team, I'm a winger. I'm not a number 10. I'm not a wing back. I can play there. That's not where you're gonna get the best out of me though. And the gaffer knows that. So he brought on Dukes. Dukes had a great game as well. With obviously his last game for the club, but had a great game when he came on in terms of scoring and assisting. Again, it's you do something, it works. It didn't work to the extent that you wanted it to, but we gave it a shot, and I made my peace with that game the moment the gaffer said, held his hands up and said, "It's got nothing to do with your performance, but I'm not going." What he said to me was, "I'm not going out this season with any regret, so I'm not
Yeah,
going to do something that I don't think should be done." And he did it, and that's fine.
yeah,
I don't mind that.
yeah. You publicly apologised as well straight away.
Yeah,
But the good news is you got to watch that game from the sidelines, and it was a bit crazy, to be fair.
yeah. As
Um,
a neutral, I can see, from a fan's perspective, last game of the season with all the goals, you're thinking this is a good game to end on. Is someone going to win it? Obviously, for us, it didn't quite go to plan
no,
with the amount of goals we conceded, but we scored the right amount of goals. So
yeah,
it's one of those.
four from away from home to a playoff chasing side is is not bad.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so moving on to, as we've already sort of mentioned, we're going to have a bit more of a fun season. Um, Lots of players left, huge turnover of players, some that were part of the furniture. You mentioned Buttes, Easty. Um, with so many leaving, did it cross your mind to go, oh, do I need to be leaving? And kind of what kept you apart from the contract? What kind of made you want to stay?
I mean, the gaffer straight away, with our exit meetings, when we played MK on the Saturday, I think. Was it Saturday? Whatever the last game was, we was in on the Monday or whatever it was to collect boots from the old training ground or whatever and have our last chats with the gaffer. And from then on, gaffer told me that he didn't want me to go anywhere, and instantly that was. I'm a person that wants to play games. I do better when I'm playing consistently, and for the gaffer to tell me that he wants to keep me and that he wants me around, um, was easy decision for me to say that. All right, I'll be here next year then. See you on the first day of pre-season, and it was pretty much that. We didn't really speak about much else. He told me that he was pleased with where I finished the season and where I was at, and that was one of the main reasons I think why he wanted to keep me on. Um, but yeah, I can't. Again, I couldn't ask more from the gaffer in terms of him wanting to keep me. I think there was a few that he didn't want to keep, and he told them quite honestly about it. So again, I'm grateful for that he's wanted to keep me because it's helped me out in terms of coming to a team where you're wanted by the manager. You can always go to another club and he'll bring you in, but it might not necessarily go your way. And I've seen that happen many
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's an easy decision.
So with all the new players coming in, how have they kind of integrated into the squad? I mean, some of them know each other from different times.
Yeah.
You're probably, but as a more experienced player, I think you're our leading appearance holder at the moment. I think you've got one more than Jacko. last season.
Yeah.
You're leading him, so you might be top class goal scorer as well. Um, how have you sort of taken on settling them in?
No, yeah, I knew pretty much with the players that we were signing that I would have been more of an experienced head, not just in terms of being at Sutton and around the club, but with general league experience. I've been quite lucky to make, close to 80 something appearances in the league, which is, it's an achievement for me because I never thought I'd make any, to be honest. So, in terms of integrating the boys in, a lot of them have come from lower levels, and it's sort of just getting them up to standards. I think that a few of them have been part time with Tuesday and Thursday trainings and that, and obviously we're in every day. So having conversations with them, managing their bodies, making sure they're doing the right things to be able to come in and train to the highest level the next day. It's all massive in pre-season because you're getting ready for that August 10th. And from then it's 9 months of straight battles, because we all want playoffs. We all want promotion. We all want to get out of this league. Every single one of us. You talk to any of the boys, that's the first thing that crosses their mind, which is great because we're already on the same level. And sometimes you sort of have to, calibrate with everybody, and sort of get on the same wavelength. But we're already there. I think it's just in terms of the plays and the playing styles, everyone's still learning each other, which I've already said. But in terms of integrating, I think everyone's settled in really well. We've had a little like a teams do where we've had some food and stuff. Where we've got people, getting them out of their shells, especially some of the younger ones that, I've been young. You don't really want to say anything just in
Yeah.
case, even if it's good or bad. And again, that's all part of football. But this year, we need everybody out their shells to get the end goal that we want, and it's pretty simple, with what we want. So yeah.
I'm guessing coming into a club with a fairly settled dressing room. Um, I mean, obviously you were older than some of them when you came in, but when you've got big personalities coming into the dressing room and you're kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't want to say anything, but now everyone's pretty much in the same boat. But
Yeah.
are you finding yourself, I mean, obviously it's a different position because you've gone from one of the younger players to being one of
Yeah.
the old players. Happy birthday
Yeah.
for the other day, by the way.
Yeah. Thank
So
you.
how do you find yourself taking on a bit more of a leadership position? I mean, you mentioned shouting in training.
Yeah.
Do you think
Definitely.
the shouting and the reflection, I shouldn't have done that, is where you're realising you're in a sort of senior position?
Yeah. Definitely. I think with not so much age, but more experience with that, it's definitely more of a leadership role I've stepped into this year. Um, wasn't one that I was planning on doing so early. If I'm going to be honest, obviously we've got Jacko. Jacko's great. He already knows he needs to be the leadership. He needs to maybe cotton wool a few, maybe shout at a couple of others. But he's had that sort of that older head for, you're talking Jacko's 33. You're talking the last five years. You probably would have said that Jacko's had that sort of that older head label. Um, Mine's come a little bit earlier, which is fine, but it gives me a new direction to go in with training and with games, because maybe some people are relying on me for a voice or for a shoulder or whatever it may be. And I've always been one to help people quietly. Now maybe I need to do it verbally and a bit louder, which is fine. Like I don't mind that. My missus will probably get on to me because I'm quite a talker, so she's probably saying that it's a role that's probably made for me. Um, but it's something that I've probably sort of enjoyed and relished as of yet. But I just want to be somebody that people feel comfortable to talk to, whether that's about football, off the pitch, because again, we all want the same thing at the end of the day. So if we can all get in that right frame of mind for the full season, you Sutton as a club did it already. And if we can do something special like that again, that would be amazing. But in terms of leadership, yeah, I've probably put myself into a role from the jump in terms of letting people know times, taking warm ups with Jacko, um, sorting out fines lists and stuff like that. So it's something new for me, and I'm learning as I'm going. But I am enjoying it. Yeah.
It actually help you get out of your own head in the game because you're then going to concentrate on what the others are doing. You won't have
Yeah.
to think about what you're doing because
Yeah.
everyone else. So So far as the team spirit is seeming good, or is it something we're going to constantly have to build?
No, the team spirit is very good. It's probably better than what I would have thought. I said we worked out the other day that we'd only had 14 sessions together, which you think about it for a whole group of new people. It's not a lot for you to think, yeah, cool, we're ready to start the season. We've still got this week and next week to get ready. We've got loads of time, and now these last 2 weeks is fine tuning, and this is where people start looking forward to it because the season starts, pre-season's done, all of the stuff that you don't really want to do, the runs and stuff like that is done, and now it's games, wins, and that's all we want. So again, it's one of those where you're really happy where the team is at. We want more, and then we'll want more when we get to another stage, and then we'll want more, and we just all have to keep pushing each other to get the end result. What was that? No, never mind. Forget it. Sorry.
You mentioned earlier that Steve lets you know.
Yeah.
And there has been some social media comment in the last couple of days because he let people know at Dartford, and there was a bit of effing and jeffing, and some people were like, "Well, hang on a minute, that can't be right. You're not going to ask these players to run through walls for you." But we don't often see that side of things. Is that just perfectly normal to tell people how poorly they're playing, or was he just livid that particular day? Does it bother you? And is the other thing is if you're playing poorly and someone
no,
tell you,
no, because you need to know. And I think if we're going for promotion, you need to know when you're not doing it. It's pretty plain and simple. I think I was one of them at the weekend where the standards I've set myself, I was nowhere near them at the weekend, and that's something that I've got to now take into the next game and try and improve on. Now, I don't consistently have bad games. I've never had 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row where you're thinking, Jesus, this is not going well. I just wasn't at it at the weekend, and the gaffer made his decision, and he brought me off. He told me straight away at half time, you haven't been good enough, and I'm, I'm happy with that. I know now what I need to do. I'll go and train this week and train at the best level I can, and then hope I play again at the weekend. Again, it's one of them where he's one of the gaffers that you expect that from. So now you know what you need to do. So the shouting, maybe not so much, probably a bit out of character for some, but we've had that in the changing rooms.
yeah,
It's what you want from your gaffer because you need to know when. All right, you lot are taking the piss now because you're way better than this type thing. It's one of the things we had the conversation with Meanie, Gaffer pulled us over. That's the nice bit done. You lot are taking the mick, sort it out. So yeah,
I think it was just that we heard it, or someone heard it, and they were like, "Oh, hang on a second."
yeah,
But it's again, it's not always the same kind of workplace, and it's what happens all the way
yeah.
through.
I mean, again, it's football, so maybe some people don't understand it. That's also fine. But we'll all go have a normal chat with the gaffer at training, like nothing happened, because the game's gone. We'll have a chat about the game. After that, it's work time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, do you have any, or have you been given any personal targets for this season, or is it just a team target of the
Um.
promotion?
Yeah. I mean, team targets. I always set myself personal targets. Throughout the season. Those are just things that you go by and try and tick them off as the season goes on. At the minute, the only target we've got is promotion. That's it. That's the only thing that's on everybody's mind. I don't think anybody's having outwards talks about if they want goals, assists, or whatever. Because if my centre half scores 20 goals and we get promoted and I score 5, I don't really care. It's one of those. I just want to
Yeah.
get promoted. So yeah, I think a lot of the boys that we've got will all be target driven inside, but outwards, it's one team, one goal.
So there you go, everyone. Heard it from Josh Burr, centre half, going to get 20 goals this season. Lump it on. What are your, obviously this season aside, what are your short and long term goals in football, and where do you kind of see yourself in 5 years with you even more of a senior player?
Um, for 5 years. So, well, the short term I've already said. That's pretty self-explanatory. Um, I want to be back in the league. It's, it's normal for an aspiring player to want to play league football. And in 5 years' time, I want to have played at the highest level I could have played at, whether that's League One or League Two or whatever it may be. Um, I back my ability. Again, it's just a mindset thing for me, and I think I've worked on sorting that out. So yeah, in football terms, that, and I want to make sure that everyone that I've got at home is taken care of. That's the main thing for me as well.
One of the questions I put down is what advice do you give to young players? Like you kind of said about the prepare for disappointments and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's one of those as well where they're always going to happen, setbacks and being disappointed. You're probably going to be disappointed every week. Even if you won, there'll be something that you're annoyed with. I remember there was times where he was winning, but I might have had a chance to get an assist and not got it, or had a chance to score and not scored. It's one of those. Even if you win, there's always something that you can improve on. So I don't think you can ever get too high with the highs and too lows with the lows. I think the gaffer said that last year. About a couple of other gaffers said that to me. You kind of have to take it as it comes, and take each day to be the best person you can be, whether that's on the pitch or off the pitch. That's my advice, really. You just have to be yourself. I think a lot of times footballers try and fit themselves into a bubble where they're not like that at home or they're not like that around their family. Just be yourself. There's always going to be somebody or a group at a football team that you always get along with. But yeah, just be yourself, man.
I kind of know the answer to this one because I follow you on Instagram. How do you sort of relax away from the pitch? I know you've got the makeup sessions with Little 'un.
Yeah,
How do you kind of get over it? Is it literally you walk in the door and it's like, how do you play with it?
yeah. It's relentless. It's more relentless than training when I get through the door. Um, I get back at a nice time, so I get to pick up the little ones from school and that, which is great because stepping into that role is probably something that I wouldn't have anticipated doing so early. But the fact that I can come back and I've got a happy, healthy family that's just sprinting around the house. If I walked in and everything was quiet, I'd think that there'd be something wrong going on. So I don't mind it being relentless. Yes, my missus will say to me again that I moan a lot, but I'm there to moan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I'm
can't
there
do.
to moan.
It's your
Someone's got to
life.
moan.
Yeah.
She's not going to moan, so I'll do it.
You think it's difficult, mate? I've got a 6-year-old and I'm 50. So it's like, no, leave me alone. Um, so, do you have any kind of hobbies or interests outside of football, or is it just burying the kids around thinking, God, I can't believe mum used to do this to me all the time?
I will say I like to play snooker on my day off.
Mhm.
So obviously I live in Braintree. There's a little snooker club that I go to pretty much when the season starts. I'll go every Wednesday and sort of have an hour and a half there of what snooker club's like. It's quiet and you're just there, rack of balls and just chilling out. Lucasade, just something nice just for myself. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then obviously just being around the kids every day, whether it's films, whether it's outside, whether we go for a dog walk, they're my safe place. So yeah.
And do you do any sort of community involvement or charity work as well, or I mean, is it just literally reassuring me on a weekly basis? I don't think that counts.
No, I don't do anything. I don't do anything like that. I probably should. I used to do some stuff at colleges and stuff that I used to go to, in terms of speaking to young groups. And when I was at Excel, I was always one that would put themselves forward for the community stuff in terms of going to schools, and I love stuff like that because it keeps me in my right mind, keeps me grounded as well. So I probably will do more stuff like that again this year. I think last year that was very Sutton based, um, and I'm miles away. I'm
Yeah.
over an hour and a half from Sutton, so it wasn't easy to go there straight after training, like getting back at 7 every week and stuff like that for things. So it was usually the local boys that were doing stuff like that. So I'll definitely be doing some more stuff
Right down the
this
road,
year
then,
for
yeah.
the community and stuff. But yeah.
Excellent. Right. So we're wrapping up. How important is the fan support for the performances and the morale? We
Huge.
we this year we've got the away end for our own
Yeah.
fans, which hopefully is going to make a lot more noise.
Yeah.
It is a quiet ground. Is that hugely noticeable, or when it is
Yeah.
noisy, is it even more noticeable?
Yeah, you think back to the Notts County game about how loud that was. You think back to I think it might have been the Doncaster game, when the gaffer first took over. How loud that was. When it's packed, it's loud, and when it's not packed, you notice it drastically. Which is why I think I was saying it even when I was doing interviews after games last year. The fans are so important, and they're so important to how we play. Um, they always will be at Sutton. I think the fans are massive to the way that Sutton play. It's a relentless pressure, um, relentless running. And if you've constantly got a team that's a set of fans, sorry, that's screaming for you, the team's always they're just gonna run. And you saw that back end of last year is that we just ran and we ran and we ran, and the fans were getting behind us every single game, thinking there's hope, there's a chance. So they're huge, they're huge. But there was games last year where, and I don't think the fans will mind me saying that, we were coming off where we potentially lost a game and the fans were maybe quiet for that game. Now,
Mhm.
I'm not saying that it's the fans' fault
No.
because we're the ones that are on the pitch, but it definitely plays a factor. And I think it plays a factor more than the fans maybe realise. Um, so maybe it's nice to hear that from a player to sort of see it from another light.
Yeah. I mean, it's that years that thing of, well, hang on, is it you've got to spark the fans into life, or the fans have got to spark the players into life? It's one of
Yeah.
those kind of difficult ones. Have you had any memorable, funny interactions with fans and names? Obviously, you've had your cake,
Yeah.
little and cutting your head off.
Yeah.
Has there been any kind of funny interactions?
To be fair, I think because I think you sat on the far side, right? Um, on
Further.
the little stand curve bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously I was playing on the right. I think the funniest interaction I've got is someone was absolutely slating me for losing the ball when we beat who did we beat at home 3-1 towards the back end of the season? Swindon? Swindon.
Yeah. Was it your goal?
Yeah. The dodgy goal and the assist, yeah. Someone was absolutely hammering me about how I kept losing the ball, and then about 30 seconds later is when I got the assist and put it on, smashed it onto Harry's head, and that was when I was laughing in the middle of the crowd. So that was probably my funniest moment with a fan. But again, I understand people's frustrations with me last year. Hopefully, it'll be way different this year. Again, but that'll probably be the funniest moment for me.
And it wasn't me, but I think I might know who it was. So we're going to wrap up. What is the words of encouragement you have for Sutton United fans as we go into the new season?
Same as last year. Just stick with us. We'll work it out. Whether it's first week, first 4 weeks, just stick with us. It's a new group. Yes, we'll still be gelling. We'll still be getting together. But stick with us. I've got a very good feeling this year.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That wraps up this episode of Sutton Podcast. As always, we appreciate your attention and feedback. Follow, like, share this episode on all your socials. Tag us at Sutton Podcast. And don't suffer alone. Let your friends know. Subscribe, all the rest of it. Give me the thumbs up on YouTube. You know, we all love that. And always thank you to sponsors Lucky Star Gin, and a big thank you for Josh. I didn't know how long this was going to be, and I've kept you for a little bit longer than I intended. I do apologise.
Yeah,
I
that's
hope you
cool.
get back to summer
All good.
holidays.
Yeah.
Snooker. Thanks to the listeners. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Take care, and we will catch up soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
United!